I was home alone a lot during the winter months as I lived with my dad and he worked away a lot during those times. I always thought that winter had started in January, but then I got told numerous times from many sources of information that winter started in December. But this thankfully happened after December, coming towards the middle of January. I was used to being alone for Christmas. I of course would video call with my dad, but I always wanted him to be here with me. My mum had passed away in the winter due to an illness I would rather not talk about. So I assumed my dad could not stand wanting to be home alone anymore, so I hold no grudges against him. The good days had passed by, and I was beginning to settle down again, writing out my desires for the year to figure out what I wanted to achieve. I loved being organised. I chucked the fireplace on and threw a small blanket over my feet as I grabbed hold of my laptop and started to write. I heard a knock at the window around half an hour later. I just casually glanced up, as I had friends who loved playing pranks, and I was used to random things happening. But I could not see anyone outside. Fine, I went back to writing. A knock came again, but it was one loud, hard knock. It had made me jump. Fuck. I sighed out, looking more intently outside the front window. I even waited before I went back to my writing, so much so that my mind would not let me settle again until I got up and looked. Nobody was outside. Just a typical view I saw way too many times. The front lawn, the main road with streetlights, and the neighbouring houses with their parked cars. Finally, I was able to write again. Really feeling good and writing down a lot of goals and things to achieve. Then the front door knocked. It was casual, so I thought it was one of my friends coming to say hello. I got up, walked over and opened the door, but nobody was there. As soon as I closed the door, it immediately knocked. I quickly swung around and opened the door, but nobody was there. I stepped outside, looked around the side of the house, even going to the front of the lawn to check down the street, but I couldn't see anybody. It was quite late in the night, around 11 PM. I closed the front door, locked it, and sat back down. It was going to be a long night indeed. I just had that feeling. Now, I am a very patient person. I do not get rattled so easily, but this window and door knocking persisted for quite some time. So much so that I was on the verge of calling the police to complain about a nuisance. But around midnight, it had stopped. I was hearing knocks, bangs and scratching sounds for that hour. It was coming from all over the house, even on the next floor up. I took a deep breath, thinking it was all in my head and I was just tired or something. So I packed away the laptop and decided to cozy down on the sofa. Fireplace still on, and falling asleep hoping the morning would come a lot sooner. I knew my dad would ring in the morning, and that is when I felt the safest. Before I continue here, I just want to say that I would try and call my dad many times in the evening, and he just never picked up. He would work nights, and so he would either be in work when I needed him most, or he would be sleeping, and I would never want to disturb that. So, I fell asleep, taking nice calm breaths when I heard loud continuous knocking from the front door. I jumped and sat upright almost instantly as the knocking continued. I got up, opened the front door, and nobody was there. The thing was, this time I saw my neighbour out on her porch smoking. It was in the early hours, as you might have expected, and I wondered why she was outside. But more so I wanted to know who was knocking the door. So I went over to her. Excuse me? Sorry to bother you. I know it is very late. But someone's been knocking my door and window very randomly, and they just woke me up. Did you happen to see who it was? Now the weird thing about this conversation was that for a few minutes she never bothered responding to me. She had not even looked my way when I spoke out. Excuse me? I was a lot sterner this time. And finally she looked my way. Leave me alone. I have not seen nothing and never will. After a brief conversation, I found out that she was blind. She had said she heard someone walking back and forth along her porch a few times, picking up random items and then placing them back down. Or so she thought. But she figured it was just an animal scurrying around. I apologized for interrupting and being stern with her. She turned out to be really lovely. Gail was her name. I will not bore you too much with the details, but her husband had left for work a few weeks back and never returned. So now she sits on the porch in the hopes he will. I closed my front door, locking it, and headed to the kitchen. Tired and wanting a small drink before heading back up to bed. I clumsily get to the top of the stairs when I hear a sound coming from my bedroom. It was a bit of a bang, like something falling to the ground. I could see my room from the top of the stairs, but still had to lean to see more of it. So that is what I did. I found myself leaning over the banister to have a better view in my room. I knew the window was closed, so no wind could have done anything. But I just stood and waited, listening to anything and everything to make sure that nothing was going on. I could not see anything on the floor or broken. Only the landing light was turned on. So I stepped over to my bedroom door and looked around. Nothing was out of place. Nothing had been dropped. Just as I thought I was hearing things and being overly cautious, someone said very deeply, "Wrong room." I jumped out of my skin and screamed at the top of my lungs while swinging my body around. I could see this man, not much older than myself, smiling with his terrifying smile while standing over me. I am not sure if this is where just natural reaction took over or it was just me panicking, but I ended up pushing this person as hard as I possibly could, and they stumbled around the stair banisters before I ran towards them to get down the stairs. I stumbled over him and made my way down, hearing him call after me, screaming my name. I had not acknowledged it at all. I just ran for the phone and started to dial 911 before I heard him running down the stairs after me. I quickly darted into the kitchen and locked the door. I got through the operator and told them the situation in record speed before they finally said police were on the way. The problem was that the door was not going to wait another 10 minutes until they arrived. The pounding this guy was doing was truly terrifying. I was so sure the door was going to break at any moment, but then everything fell silent. I could hear nothing. I thought to myself that maybe the police had arrived. I had stupidly hung up on the operator and my mind had begun racing. My back door was part wood and part glass, so as I thought it'd be best to get outside, I saw this man at my back door. He had that terrifying smile on his face as he broke through the glass and was reaching for the door handle. I ran back out of the kitchen and onto the street where I finally saw the police coming down. They stopped and quickly rushed inside to find this man, but he had vanished into the night. He was nowhere to be seen. That was until a neighbour quickly waved over to the police, keeping her voice quiet as she told them someone was hiding in her shed. And guess what? It was the same man, hiding. The police quickly got him in cuffs and put him in the back seat of the car. They found some cloth which they presumed would be to gag me, and a knife. My dad quickly came home from work, which took a few more nights of me being completely alone before I started to feel safe again. My dad has fitted more alarm systems, new cameras and new locks to help make me feel safe as possible. He even adopted me a dog, a German Shepherd named Elsie, who is an ex-police dog.